Okay, this is Math 1, Unit 1, Lesson 1 on distributive property. Some homework help for tonight's homework. So here we go. Just going to work through some problems here that I've circled. There's several on the front page and the back page. Going to work through, not all of them, but again, the idea here is to help you look at some potential solutions to make sure you're on the right track. So looking at, first of all, use distributive property to simplify each expression. The first one, we're going to use 7. Sorry, my pencil's already out of lead. We're going to go 7, and we're going to distribute the 7 to the z and the 7 to the -4. So we do 7 times z becomes 7z, and a 7 times a -4 becomes a -28. And that's all there really is to that part there. So we're taking a 7 and we're distributing it to both parts of what is in the parentheses there. Looking at number 4. This time the numbers on this side over here, not a big deal. We're going to distribute again over to there and to there. So beginning here, 6 times 5, or 5 times 6 is 30, and I want to include the y. And over here, 5 times a -3 is a -15. So 30y minus 15. On number 7, we're going to do 7 times 11 for 77, and then a 7 times a -n for a -7n. So there's a couple samples of how you use the distributive property to solve those there, or to simplify it. On this side, on numbers 9 through 12, we have some fractions. And what it's asking you in the fractions is to write it as a sum or a difference, which means we're going to break this apart a little bit. We're going to take this 3, and we're going to write it with that group, and we're going to make a group of that and a group of that. So essentially, we rewrite this as 2x over 3 plus 3 over 3. Those are my two groups, right? There's a 2x over 3 here, and a 3 over 3 for that one. This can, of course, be simplified a little bit more, and I can write that as a 2x over 3 plus 3 over 3 is actually 1. And I'd leave my answer like that. You could also technically write it as 2/3 x plus 1, and that would also be acceptable depending on, just how your teacher wants you to write that. That'll be okay there. It's good to know that this can be written both ways. That'll come up again later on the back side of this page. So let's look at number 12. We're going to put the 24k over 6 and the -18 over 6, and we're going to write this one as a difference type of problem. So first we have 24k over 6, and we're going to do -18 over 6. And now we need to simplify that. 24 divided by 6 happens to be 4. So this part becomes 4k, and then we're going to subtract 18 divided by 6 happens to be 3. And that becomes our simplified version of that problem there. On number 13 to 16, we're going to simplify it again. They begin with number 13 showing you that there's a -1 in front of this parentheses here, the p plus 6. On number 15, there's not a -1 there, but it is implied that there, you could just pretend there's a -1 there, not a big deal. And you're going to do -1 times a. Well, that turns the a into a -a value. And then the -1 times a -15. Remember, recall this, a negative times a negative is a positive. So we have -a plus 15. Sometimes we rewrite that so you don't lead off with a negative integer there, and you might rewrite this as 15 minus a. Again, either one is acceptable, depends on what your teacher says, but those will both be fine. We do the same thing for number 16. Again, this is like having a -1 in front, so I distribute here and here. Again, I have a negative times a negative, so a -1 times a -z is a positive z, and then a -1 times a -12 becomes a positive 12 for number 16. On the next part down here, it asks you to use mental math to solve these problems. For mental math, what we're looking at is saying, well, it's about what? 49 is about 50, and 50 times 7, I could probably do a mental math because I know 5 times 7 is 35, and I add the 0 to be about 350. So that's kind of the idea that what you're looking at. On this one, I might do 2 times 6, and that's how I might solve that with mental math over there. Over here, I could do a 12 times 7. That might work. Over here, I might do a 15 times 10. You might say, why 15 10? Well, 15 and 10 is not too bad. That's 150. Right? Is that 14 and 11? No, I'm just kind of estimating anyways, and it's mental math, so why not? Again, you can get different answers there because you are just essentially estimating. Let's look on the back side. On the back side, you have some more of the same types of problems. We're going to again use distributive property to simplify each expression here is kind of working backwards. So we're going to say, what can we do? We have a 9y and an 11y because they are the same. They have the same kind of terms there. Well, it's y and a y. We can combine those, and 9 plus 11 is 20y. Okay, we're just combining like terms here in this case here. So make sure they match exactly. On number 26, we see that we have a negative 4p plus a 2p. They both have just a single p there. So a negative 4 plus a positive 2 becomes a negative 2p. Because I have negative 4 and positive 2, and the p remains the same. On the one right below it, number 28, negative 5 squared plus 5k squared. We have a k squared in both problems. So what I really want to look at here is minus 5 plus 6. That would be a 6 minus 5, leaving me with 1. And so I could write that as 1k squared. Or I could say it's just simply k squared. And that's fine as well. Number 29, they both have a w squared. So I know I'm going to have a w squared in my answer. And then I have 7 minus 14. Well, that becomes a negative 7, a negative 7w squared. Number 33 is one of the word problems, and it's a good little word problem here because it says that a profit a company receives is given by the expression 0.15 times 855p minus 315, where p is the number of products sold. Those are our products sold here. Rewrite the expression using the distributive property. So they want us to first of all take this and use the distributive property to rewrite that expression. Okay? So to do that, we're going to do 0.15 times 855. So do 0.15 times 855. And that gives me 128.25, and then we keep the p there, p minus, and then we're going to do 0.15, distribute that to the 315, and that's going to equal 47.25. So that's the equation written using the distributive property. Okay, oops, sorry there. So what we've done is we've taken this and we've distributed the 0.15 through each portion of that and rewritten it as so. The next step is they want you to see what's the profit for 25 products, that's P, and 150 products, that's P. It wants you to use mental math, which you can, or you can simply just plug it into the calculator and take a look and see. Again, the idea here is that I take this equation and I do it 2 times. I'm going to do 128.25 and I'm going to multiply it by 25, that's my P, minus 47.25. That's one problem for this one here. And that one would be then the same idea, 128.25 times 150, that's the number of products, minus 47.25. So you can work those two things out and see what you come up with. I'm going to move on down to the next section. 34. Simplify. We have xy, xy, xy. Those all match. So now I have a 7 minus 1 plus a 3. 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. So I end up with 9, and my variables stay the same, 9xy. Over here, I'm going to distribute the 3 to here and to here. So 3 times negative 6 gives me a negative 18fg, and a 3 times a negative 4 gives me a negative 12. And I leave it just like that. And number 38, a little small there, but I have a VW squared, and I have a VW squared there. So these terms are alike. So I can combine those and group those up. So this is a 1, negative 1, and negative 3 is a negative 4 VW squared. So I got those. Check, check. Here I have a VW. And you just plain VW? Nope, and nope. So the VW just stays VW. Check. And here I have a V squared W and a 2V squared W. Actually, it's a negative 1V squared W. So 2 minus 1 is simply 1, which I could write a 1, but I don't need to, V squared W. So that is my simplified expression for that one there. This last one, a couple ways of looking at it. I have x's on top, I have 4's on the bottom. If I want to rewrite this, I could rewrite this first term as actually 4x over 4. And the reason I can do that is because 4 over 4 is simply 1. But now I have a common denominator for all these, so I could then combine them up, combine it and rewrite this here. This can be rewritten if I wanted to as 4x plus x plus 3x all over 4, right? Because it's all over the same denominator. And now I can combine like terms. 4 plus 1 is 5. Oops, sorry, I put a plus there. Sorry, that's a minus 3. Sorry about that. So it's a minus 3. Be careful. So 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. So that actually becomes a 2x over 4. And I can reduce 2 over 4, can become 1 over 2. And I can either put the x on this top or leave it there. I could also write it as or x over 2. Either one of those is acceptable. So 1/2 x or x over 2 would be okay for that one there. Let's look at one last problem here, number 42. It says to simplify its expression. We're going to use the distributive property and then probably combine like terms if I had to guess. So to distribute the 3 times 2n becomes 6n. 3 times a negative 7 becomes a negative 21. Then I'm going to add to that 7 times 4, which is 28. And 7 times a negative 2n is a negative 14n. Combine like terms, I have a 6n and a negative 14n for a negative 8n when I combine those. And a 28 minus 21 leaves me with a positive 7. And now I'm all done right there. Alright, hope that helps you out a little bit with your homework. Have a good day.